I'm not sure if you would consider it escape or letting us go. But we were marched from there to a small town just outside of where Wounded Knee 2 was. I may have the timeline messed up. See, when I started figuring all of this out, my mother kept telling, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying. And I go, I met Minnie and Bill. And she hung up.
And who was Minnie and Bill?
Minnie and Bill were my foster parents when I was 2.
Okay.
Those are the ones they came here and they talked to me. They reconnected.
And you had mentioned that on one of your questionnaires that your mother had a mental illness.
Yeah, she thinks she's better than everyone else.
Do you know what her official diagnosis would have been?
No. I know that her mom was schizophrenic and had some other stuff wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure because the name that she gave me of her mother, she's now using as the name of her daughter, Eunice. So I'm not sure if Eunice was my mother or if it was her mother.
Mm-hmm.
So I could have been raised by my grandmother.
Was she older? Like it could have.
Kinda. Like I said, she dyed her hair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the time I was a teenager, her appearance didn't really seem to change a lot. She didn't seem to get older or anything. She seemed to stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is, to this day, I cannot stand the smell of ammonia.
Because of?
Her dyeing hers and my sister's hair all the time. I don't know if she was dyeing it to look like the rest of us or what, but every other week she dyed her hair.
So when you said you were adopted out twice, adopted once out as a baby, but you think you might have went back to your biological family.
I'm not sure if it was my biological family.
So maybe she was your adopted mom. And then, when was the second time?
When I was about 12, 10, between 10 and 12.
And who were you adopted out to that time?
Bill and a woman, I don't know.
And why were you taken away from the woman who you thought, or at least you were told was your mom?
I have no idea. Probably drugs.
Mm-hmm.
She was into LSD and Quaaludes and cross tops. I don't even know what half of it is.
Well, obviously she had a temper because she was physically aggressive.
She used to beat us with a carved down 2x4. Salt had made it for her for stirring the lard, fat off the pigs. That when they're rendering it down, you got to keep stirring it so it doesn't burn.
Uh-huh.
He carved it down for that, and she used it for other things, including beating us. But now my sister and brother, they won't even acknowledge it ever happened.
boarding schools and all of that. Were your brother and sister with you, or do you remember?
My older brother Albert was, who ended up getting adopted out when he was 5. But I remember him, and I was told I didn't have an older brother. My mother didn't realize how much stuff you can find on the internet. I found my brother's adoption record. And like I said, every time I confronted her with stuff, she would hang up and then not answer the phone. Didn't want to deal with it because she knew she had beat the shit out of me for talking about any of it. Anytime I tried to, I remember when automatically she would hit me.
So, do you know why you were in the witness protection program?
Mauer, well, Cabassian, because of the Manson stuff, we were in witness protection.
So, because not only you witnessed stuff, but your
Because
mom.
the woman that raised me snitched. She took the easy way out. She told what they wanted her to tell, and then she took the kids from everybody. She raised everybody's kids.
And how many kids were those?
To begin with, there were 7.
And what happened with them all?
One died. One was killed.
How was the one killed?
Because a young man realized what was going on with gold eggs, and he took me to go to Washington and tell what was going on in the community. And they used my little sister instead of me, and she was too little, and he couldn't get the egg out of her, and he ended up killing her.
So, gold eggs was like a way of like smuggling stuff? No, I'm sorry, what's gold eggs?
Golden eggs. Solid gold eggs that were used to make it look like people were given a chance at a better life and to leave the community. Only thing is we realized that it was the same egg they were using over and over. They were just scraping off one name and putting a new one on. People were being killed before they got to the next county. The golden eggs, they were using me and another girl to pretend like we were laying eggs. Only thing is where the eggs were being put for us to get on stage and do this was not an appropriate place to be putting stuff in a child. And it got stuck in my little sister, and he ended up killing her. Some stupid preacher that thought he was connected to God.
So he killed her in order to get the egg. So, I know it's kind
And
of...
I found the egg about 10 years ago.
The one that you had?
Yep.
You'd kept it?
No.
No? Where was it?
Dory Stafford's house. Dorian Wayne Stafford down in Ukiah. I found it after Wayne died. It was out in his shed. I was too scared to ask anybody because as soon as I saw the stupid egg, which had my name on it and my birthday on it, I knew that all the stories that they told me were lies were true. And that I was in a motorcycle club with somebody that knew what I had been through. And I couldn't tell Alan because at that time he just kept saying that I was upset because I wasn't getting enough attention and that I was just making it up.
So he didn't believe you either. So a lot of times throughout your life you haven't really felt listened to or heard, huh?
I was just a little girl. I couldn't remember all that. I made it up. I had to have made it up. But when there's so much evidence, my father-in-law, I'm pretty sure, knew what I'd been through. And he told me that when it was time, that the evidence would be there for me to find. And I found it all over the damn internet. I found me standing with the lion the day that we were leaving to come to the U.S.
Like a picture?
Yep. It's all over my Facebook page. I have put it all back together even though they didn't want me to. And when I got too close, that's when Sharon Dean Maurer decided to die and come back as Linda Kabastian. She's living in Oregon or Washington. When I was having problems with CPS down at your Visalia with my other grandkids, I tried reaching out and asking her for help with my Native American background, and she goes, "Not my problem," and hung up. Her firstborn grandchild, and it's not her problem. Of course, right after Becca was born, Alan had broken his feet, and we were here for about 4 months. And then we took Becca to see my mother. My mother couldn't even pick her firstborn grandchild up. I don't know.
She just didn't want to.
Didn't want to. Didn't even ask. Her firstborn grandchild. And she wouldn't even touch her.
So, out of all your siblings that you know of, who was the oldest? Was it Albert?
Yes. As far as I know, it was Albert.
And you don't have... He was adopted when he was 5, you said.
He was adopted out.
And have you had any contact with him as an adult?
Never seen him again.
And who's after Albert? Wait, and was Albert your mom and dad's child that you know of? Or?
No, Albert was Gillette.
So who was that your mom's or your dad's?
That would have been his dad.
And
Sheena and him, from what I've been told, had the same dad.
okay, but
Him, Sheena, and the one that my mother called Baby Gillette. was whoever their father was. Mary and I was told that we had the same father, but the dates that the woman that raised me gave as to when my father was in prison and out of prison and then back in prison, my sister could not be his.
So, is Sheena after Albert in the birth order?
No,
Who's after Albert?
baby Colette.
Baby Colette. And, do you have a relationship with that person?
No, baby Colette died.
No. How?
I have no idea.
And did they die before you were born? Or were you little?
My mother says that she died before I was born, but I'm not positive about that. Like I said, this is a woman that beat us if we told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
She called them lies, but they were the truth.
And then Sheena's your mom's third oldest?
Yes.
And where does she live?
She is, last time I heard, living in Willits. Or Williams. Willits.
And you don't have a relationship with her either?
No. Sheena used to hit me and tickle me until I would piss my pants so that she could get information to be able to go pretend to be the person that stuff happened to. They made it look like it happened to Sheena rather than me. And she would sit on top of me and tickle me or hit me until I told her what she needed to know. And the last time I saw her was when my brother Jerry died in 2012. And she was still calling me a liar then. And she was trying to hit on my husband. A week after my little brother dies, she's sitting there hitting on my husband. No, wait a minute. Wasn't even a week after. It's 2 days. Because we got the call while we were on the way down to court for Becca's first 3. So the day I lost my first 3 grandchildren to the system is the same day I lost my little brother.
So a lot of grief on that day, huh?
And the next day, when everybody got together to try and figure out what to do, my sister's sitting there hitting on my husband and calling me a liar.
It's not a good day for you, huh? So when you were a kid and all this was going on, it doesn't really sound like you had anybody who was like there for you, who could help you through all of it. So what did help you?
A principal.
The principal at school? How did they help you?
They saw what was going on the day that an accident happened in Montgomery Creek, where coming from Bernie, a potato truck, a semi, went off the hill, and I ran out the door and headed towards the truck. And my mother told me to stop, that I thought I was seeing things, that nothing happened. My principal apparently had seen it too. He wasn't far behind me, and he heard my mother say that and then hit me because I said I did see it, and she just hauled off and slapped me. You're just trying not to come home because you got in trouble. You're just trying to get out of trouble. And I go, no, a truck just went off the cliff. And that's when I saw the principal come up behind her and go, he grabbed her and he goes, that little girl just saw the same thing that I saw. Now you get off the school property. And she grabbed me and tried to take me with her, and he goes, no. Her and I have to talk to the authorities about what we just saw. She's not going anywhere. And she tried throwing a fit, and at that time, 2 of the other teachers had come out and asked what was going on. And when they found out, he said, get her off the school grounds. Do not let her take Sharon. I'm going to the truck to see if maybe whoever's in it's alive. Do not let Sharon follow. I don't want her to see. It was, let's put it this way, the school's here. The road wound around and up. He went off at the top of the hill. He was about less than 300 yards from the outside gate, the outside fence of the school.
Well, that probably wasn't a good outcome for him. No.
The principal knew he was dead, and that's why he didn't want me to follow him.
So you felt like that was at least one circumstance where somebody stuck up for you and validated what you saw.
He ended up taking and making me kind of a pet project. He got mad at my mother when I didn't have a coat in the middle of winter, and I was walking to school in tennis shoes and a sweater. I didn't have a coat. So he went and he got a coat. And he told my mother that if he saw anyone but me wearing that coat, that he would go to the authorities.
Did he ever get child welfare involved, or was that around the time?
He tried, and my mother denied everything, and nobody wanted to go against her. Nothing happened. Nothing ever happened to her. I mean, a woman got stabbed by a man in the trailer park that we lived in. She ran from the end of the trailer park to our house. She was on the porch bleeding. The guy was still down at the end of the park, heading towards us. And I go, just open the door and bring her in, Mom. You have the gun. Just open the door and bring her in.
You should want to do it.
The guy grabbed the lady by the hair and pulled her off the porch and down around the corner. All my mother had to do was open the door and bring her in. She had the damn 22 right above the door. She could have helped that woman. And she just stood there.
So you definitely didn't feel like your mom was a protective person.
No. Even when Sheena told my mother that Robert's dad molested her and she didn't want him back in the house and watching us girls, my mother wouldn't listen until my brother's Aunt Cammie got there and told her that he had done it to her too.
She listened.
She finally listened. But it took somebody else telling their story for her to listen.
She didn't believe her kids.
She never believed us. To her, we were nothing but liars.
So, when you said that you were adopted out the second time, did you stay with that family? How long did you stay with that family?
I wasn't there very long, maybe 2 weeks. And then some guy came and said that he was my father, and that the woman that had me had no right to adopt me out. And then I was put back with her. My birth certificate was taken, and he told her, don't ever try and adopt her out again.
So you ended up going, I'm sorry, you ended up going back to the same woman.
Back to the same woman.
So your dad came and got you, but then just returned you.
Yeah.
And child welfare didn't like check in? No?
No.
But you don't think the guy who said you were...
No, he disappeared. He just did that, then left. All she had to do was open the door and let that woman in.
Do you know what ended up happening to the woman? But it was traumatic for you to witness.
That night, Robert's dad showed up, got in a fight with my mother. Sheena took us kids out the back door. I bit one of the guys that was with Robert's dad because he tried to grab me and cover my mouth. And I bit his hand, and we ran up the road to some people that had a motor home. And they heard what was going on. They talked to us kids. We got in the motor home, and they took us away from there. A couple days later, we were brought home, and they acted like nothing happened. But Robert's dad was drunk and mad, and it was all anger towards my mother because of what happened, and because she didn't do anything.
So he was upset too.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I left off with your siblings. We talked about Sheena. After Sheena was
Me.
you. After you was Mary.
I don't believe so.
Who was after you?
There was another little girl. There was another one. She was the one that died. Unless it was Mary and they ended up putting some other girl with us. Because the girl was younger than me.
That was the girl with the egg. But you don't really remember her name?
I don't even remember my mother ever being pregnant. There's at least 3 after me, and I don't remember her ever being pregnant.
So you have some suspicion she got the kids in another way.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so then, do you know who was after the little girl?
Mary would have been after her.
I'm guessing you don't talk to Mary either. Do you know where she lives?
As far as I know, she lives somewhere in the between Round Mountain and Redding somewhere.
And what happened with your guys' relationship?
What happened with ours was the fact that she tried calling me a liar, and her husband got mad because he had spent years trying to get some of the stuff that I talked about out of her head, because my mother kept telling him none of it happened. And he took years trying to get all that out of her head. And then here I come, And I'm trying to go, Mary, this happened.
Mhm.
No matter what mother says, this happened. And he goes, you have the same memories. Then why was it that your mother was telling me that this stuff was all imaginary in Mary's head? And I go, because she didn't want any of it told. She doesn't want us to remember it. She took and we were in therapy to try and get us to forget it. She put us in therapy.
And how old were you when you went to therapy?
12.
And how was that experience for you?
Boring. Because other than the little activities that he did with me, I didn't want to talk about any of it because he kept telling my mother everything. And then I would get hit. So I stopped talking. No reason to talk and tell him stuff that I'm not supposed to talk about if I'm going to get beat afterwards.
So, you had said that Mary's husband figured out that you guys had some of the same memories. But was there a reason why you and Mary stopped having a relationship?
Because Mary said that I was interfering in her life. And that I was bringing stuff up in the past that she didn't want to think about anymore. That she'd been told it never happened and that it was just stuff that was put in her head. And I tried to get her to understand that, Mary, if I have the same memories as you, we haven't spoken since I left home when I was 15. And I'm having the same memories. How can they not be true? And she got all mad and said that she didn't want to see me. And I go, fine, don't matter to me. We've been not talking for this long. We can not talk for this much longer. It don't matter. I know the truth. I've got the photographic evidence. I've got police reports from when Mother was getting ready to go to prison for LSD and all that. And so, no, I don't need her to confirm or deny whether my memories are true. She needs to do that for herself.